Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Guillermina. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Thanks to Database TUDIC Meetup for having me here. I'm really excited to walk you through Datawrapper. Basically, I'm going to do a short intro of who we are, what Datawrapper is, why it was created, founded. Then we're going to do an overview of the charts, tables, and maps that you can create. We're going to get our hands on some data, and I'll show you how to create a line chart and a map. And then I'm gonna walk you through some other resources, and we're gonna have time for a Q&A. All right, so let's get started. This is me. I'm Guillermina, a product specialist with Datawrapper. And basically, in a nutshell, I was telling them before, what I do is I'm kind of like the bridge between our users and customers and our developers. So I get feature requests from our users, I run them by our developers, and then our developers are, okay, we're gonna do this, we're not gonna do that. Whenever we have a new feature release, I go back to our users and I say, hey, we have this new amazing feature, go try it out. I also host sessions like this introductory one, as well as more advanced sessions. I do public webinars on a monthly basis. I do, well, this intro one. I also do another one that's focused on our API, another one that's focused on maps, on tables, on our multiple lines, etc. So if you ever want to attend any of the public webinars, you're more than welcome to do so. My background is in economics and data science. I focused on international development. Basically, I was doing research and trying to find out why some countries were richer than others. And then I turned into a data visualization practitioner. And while I was working at a think tank in Washington, D.C., what I did is I stopped doing research, and then I came up with some database guidelines to help them show the data more effectively. And also I started working on some other database projects, and that eventually brought me to Datawrapper. So that's enough about me. Datawrapper. So Datawrapper is based in Berlin. That's where I'm right now. And it was created in 2012 with the idea of helping journalists create data visualizations. And that eventually evolved into a tool that aims at making it easier for anyone without any coding skills or design knowledge to create charts, maps, and tables. And our team is really varied. So we all come from different backgrounds. Me, myself, my background is in economics. I work with journalists, cartographers, designers, developers. One of my colleagues' backgrounds is physics, and that's super interesting to me. So we all come from very different backgrounds. But if there's one thing that we all have in common, that's, I would say, the experience and the expertise that we have in the field of database. So for example, our co-founder, Gregor, he was previously working at the New York Times, and he was building their fancy data visualization pieces that you've probably seen before. And he wanted to make data visualization accessible to everyone, right? And that's how we got to Datawrapper. And Datawrapper lives on the web, so you don't really need to download anything. You can simply go to datawrapper.de, you click on Start Creating, and you can start creating a chart, a map, or a table without the need of signing up. And by now, Datawrapper, I would say that it's used by a wide variety of organizations. And these organizations, they come from very different areas. Journalism, market research, finance, NGOs, government, statistical offices, and basically any other kind of organization, and also individuals that you could think of who have some data and also story to tell. Now, creating a chart in Datawrapper is something that you can do in a very few steps. You first need to upload your data, you then edit your chart, you set up any chart type that you'd like, you set up any parameters, and then the last step, the most important one, because that's the reason why you started creating the visualization, is to publish it, right? And you can do this either online, embedded on a website, or as an image file. to go in print or to publish it on social media. And now you'll see some examples of Datawrapper charts that were published for the web. We have here some visualizations that were published in the German newspaper Zeit.de. We have the Spiegel here, another German newspaper, the New York Times. And you'll notice here that these charts that were published online, they're interactive. And that means that you're going to be able to show the underlying data with interactive features like tooltips, for example, that show up on Hover. And I want you to know that this is the type of interactivity that you can expect to find in Datawrapper. These are interactions that let the reader access the underlying data, but it will never go so far that huge parts of the data are going to be hidden behind clicks. And this is because at Datawrapper, we focus on the explanatory side of data visualization. That means that we, as the authors of the visualizations, we are responsible for we're responsible to show the reader what the story is and to guide the reader through that story with careful and intentional chart design, rather than, for example, giving the user, the reader, a huge unfiltered data set and letting them explore it via drop-down menus, toggles, filters on their own, like, for example, you've probably seen with dashboards. So that would be the exploratory side of data visualization. And again, at Datawrapper, we focus on the explanatory side of data visualization. Now, Datawrapper visualizations are responsive. So that means that anything that you're going to create with Datawrapper is going to look good on desktop computers, and it's also going to look good on mobile screens and everything in between, because the charts have been optimized for mobile screens with, for example, fewer labels and less axis ticks like you're seeing on the scatterplot in the screen. And Datawrapper also supports dark mode. So that means that if your charts are embedded in a website that has a dark mode option, then your charts can automatically switch to dark mode for better readability. And visualizations, Datawrapper visualizations can also be customized to your house style. You might be wondering, what does that mean? So you might be noticing that the styling of the charts on the screen are very different from each other. For example, they have different fonts, different background colors, and that's made possible by the design customization that we offer as part of our pay plans. So basically, the charts that you create with Datawrapper, they're going to fit into your content, and they are not going to look like they were created with a third-party tool. Now, having said that, we don't necessarily need the interactivity to tell a nice story, right? And that's why our charts, they also work great in static print formats. So we also have the option of downloading the visualizations as PNGs, PDFs, and SVGs. As part of the free plans, you're going to be able to download the visualizations in high-resolution PNG formats, which are great for social media, I would say, and can also be used in reports. And as part of the pay plans, you'll have the option of downloading them as PDF or SVGs. So if you're not familiarized with these files, PDFs and SVGs, these are vector formats. So that means that they're infinitely scalable. It doesn't matter how much you zoom into the image, they're never going to lose resolution. They're never going to get pixelated. And the good thing is that if you know a little bit of Adobe Illustrator, you're going to be able to edit them there. And they're also ideal for reports and printed publications. Now, one last thing about Datawrapper. Let's say that you're working in a team of 10 other people and you're all creating charts and maps and tables. You want to be able to collaborate in teams and organize all these visualizations that you're creating in folders to better organize your workflow, right? And this is something that you're also going to be able to do in Datawrapper. And as of last week, we've added a live collaboration tool that I invite you to check out. So basically, The app now will show you small avatars of if multiple people are editing the same visualization, you'll see the little avatar of the people that are working on the visualization and the step or what feature of the visualization they're editing. So I encourage you to go check it out. Okay, we're gonna move over to the overview of the visualizations. Basically, what is Datawrapper for? What can you create with Datawrapper? With Datawrapper, you're going to be able to create these 3 types of visualizations: charts, maps, and tables. And within these categories, we have lots of options. We're going to take a look at the charts first. So the first one I'm going to get into is I would say, the most widely used. This is a line chart, but I'm not here to show you a line chart because you might already be familiar with line charts. But what I want to show you here is how the author has already used some of the features that Datawrapper offers to really highlight the story in the chart. So for example, you can see the text notations in the chart that are being used to label the lines, and the colors and the widths of individual lines have been customized to draw the attention to the rise and fall of cigarette consumption in some selected few countries, with an extra emphasis that's put in the United States through that red color and that thick line. And we also see some additional countries that are shown in the background in gray, which are there to provide more context and really help drive the point home that the US is leading the pack in terms of cigarette consumption increase, as well as the decline among all these countries. And since the visualization, the line chart, is interactive, even though the countries in the background aren't directly labeled, the curious reader still has the possibility to hover over those lines and find out more. Now, this is a bar chart, or I would say more specifically, a stacked bar chart. And this is a great choice when you want to compare data across groups, like countries in this case, and also to show the breakdown into different subcategories. And you can also see how hovering over the legend or the bars really highlights them, which makes it easier for readers to drill down and compare the values for a specific subcategory. Oops. Now here we have a dot plot, and I would say that dot plots are a little bit less widely used, but they are very useful if you have ranges of data or data that are closely clustered together, but don't necessarily start at 0, like ratings for movies in this case. And another way of visualizing parts of a whole are pie or donut charts. Here we have multiple donut charts, and you're also going to be able to create multiple pie charts. Some people might be freaking out, but yeah, you can also create multiple pie charts. And these work great when you want readers to be able to compare the situation across different categories or groups, like countries in this case. And then we have scatter plots. And I'll say scatter plots are my favorite type of visualization to create in Datawrapper, because they're very versatile in the sense that they let you show a lot of different dimensions of your data. So for example, we have here the X and Y axis. You can see the GDP per capita and life expectancy. But beyond that, you'll see how the author has visualized even more aspects of the data. And color, for example, has been used to represent the continents, and the size of the symbols is mapping the population of the countries. And I would say this is a very powerful chart type in the sense that you can represent a lot of information in very little space. And all these layers of extra information, of course, that you can add to scatterplots, they give the reader a little bit of more insight into the data. And I said they're very versatile because here we have one that looks totally different from the previous one. In this case, you can see that the author didn't work with the color or the size of the symbols at all, but instead, the author it was Lisa, a colleague of mine. She created these 4 quadrants in green, orange, and yellow to reveal the countries where women have more or less maternal leave and the rates for paid maternal leave. And since scatterplots, basically what they do, they give you full control over the position and the coloring of the elements. That flexibility means that you can get really, really creative with them. We've seen our users use them in all kinds of unexpected and creative ways, from creating timelines, like in the example at the top, to creating data art, like the example at the top right that shows the girl with the pearl earring, a painting by Vermeer. Yeah. So basically, these are like an overview of the charts that you can create. Now, another type of visualization that we offer at Datawrapper are tables. And tables are also very versatile. Why? Because they let you show a lot of data. They offer lots of different customization options, and they also do a really good job at highlighting certain information. So for example, you'll be able to color certain rows and columns to really highlight specific information. Or maybe you want to color cells by category. And this is a really nice way to visually guide the reader through the data and really, really make your point. And another cool feature of tables is that you can put mini charts within the table by column. So if you're having a if you have a big block of numbers, it's nice to sometimes visually break that up for comparison and easy reading with a bar chart, for example, or a mini line chart or a spark line. And you're also going to be able to insert images into your table, which is really nice if you have flags or photos or logos that you'd like to show. And tables can also be used to create heat maps. And the way that works is that you can configure the cells to be colored according to a value in them. And then it's up to you if you still want to show the underlying value, like in the example at the bottom right, or if you want to let the colors speak for themselves. I would say that heat maps are a great way to show a lot of tabular data in a very compact and visual way. And finally, last feature that I'm gonna call out of tables is that you can make your tables searchable, which is really helpful for big data sets. So in this case, this table shows lots of entries with different information from the 50 states in the United States. So being able to look up a particular state becomes really, really helpful. Now we're gonna move on to maps. And with Datawrapper, you're going to be able to create 3 different types of maps: choropleth, symbol, and locator maps. This is a typical choropleth map. And I'm sure you've seen such maps before that encode a value per region with colors. So for example, election maps, I would say, are almost always choropleth maps. And they're great for showing geographical patterns and trends, like in this case, for example. Now, if instead of data for specific regions, you've got data for specific locations, like, for example, schools in a city or polling stations in a city, then a symbol map is going to be a great option for you, because they basically let you to plot arbitrarily different symbols at different locations. And in a similar fashion to scatter plots, you can add extra layers of information through the size and the colors of the symbols. And between these 2 maps, choropleth and symbol maps, we have a collection of 4,000 base maps, which show different administrative boundaries. And now, if you cannot find the administrative boundary that you're looking for, you can also, we have the option of uploading a custom base map through a JSON file. And if you still cannot find the map that you're looking for, you can just reach out to us at support@datawrapper.de. We've had some users reach out to us saying, hey, I can't find this map. And our cartographers, they work day and night to try to add it to the collection so that everyone can use it. Now, the last kind of map are locator maps. And locator maps are a little bit different. Some people, they would say that they are not data visualizations per se, but more of a tool to provide context on where something is located or where something happened, like events within a city. As you can see, locator maps can be three-dimensional. You can point to markers with little arrows, and they're very versatile in the sense that they can be used to tell lots of different stories. And all the examples that we have on the screen, they look all quite different from each other, but they were all created with Datawrapper locator maps, which gives you an idea of how flexible the design options and customization are with locator maps. So these are the three types of visualizations that you can create. Now what we're going to do, we're going to get our hands on some data, and I'm going to show you how to create a line chart. Okay, so this is the data that I have right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I have data for different web browsers: Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari, and Opera. I have monthly data starting in January 2009, and it goes through February last year. So that would be February 2023. And these data show the market share, right, for these different browsers. It's world data. So let's say that I would like to create a chart, a visualization with this data. So what I would do, I would go to datawrapper.de. I'm going to click on Start Creating, and we have a new feature. And I'm going to land on the first step, the upload your data step. And Datawrapper here is going to ask for you to feed the app with some data. You're going to be able to do this in 4 different ways. You're going to be able to copy and paste some data in this table right here. Let me zoom in so that you can all see. You're going to also be able to upload a CSV file or an Excel file and choose the sheet that you want to directly import. You can connect a Google Sheet and paste the URL to the Google Sheet right here, or you can link to external data. And these two, the Google Sheet option and link external data, are commonly used for live updating visualizations that we've seen that were very, very common during COVID. And also they're very common during elections. In our case, what we're going to do, because I have all my data here, I'm going to copy and paste it right here in this text box. Now, if you, let's say that you really want to get started with Datawrapper, but you don't really have a data set that you can work with, we have some example data sets right here that you can check, which are nice to try with different visualizations. So I'm going to click on Proceed after I pasted the data. And this is going to bring me to the Check and Describe step. And the Check and Describe step, this is the first time that I'm seeing my data in a tabular form. And Datawrapper is going to try to interpret the type of data that the app is dealing with. So for example, you'll see that the column A, it's being colored in green. Then because it's interpreting that it's dealing with, it has dates. And then we have the rest of the columns in blue, which means that we're dealing with numerical columns. Had we had text, for example, we would have seen that in black. And of course, red means that there's an issue that needs to be solved. There's an error in our data. So I'm going to check, and there are no errors in my data. So I'm going to click on Proceed. And this is going to bring me to the Visualize step. And this is, I would say, one of the most important steps, because this is the first time that I'm getting the first insights of the data, because it's the first time that I'm seeing the data in a visual form. And I'll see, for example, I'm saying that it's the first time that we can get the first insights of the data, because, for example, here I'll see that I want to really highlight the story of the increase in Google Chrome's market share, as well as I want to point to Internet Explorer losing market share. And then I'll have the rest of the lines kind of like in the background in gray, like the example I was showing you of the line chart at the very beginning. So that's kind of like the story that I would like to highlight: Google Chrome and Internet Explorer. Now, what you'll see is that in the visualize step, Datawrapper is always going to split the screen into two. On the right side of the screen, you're always going to see a preview of the visualization that's automatically going to update as we make changes to the visualization using the panel or the customization options on the left side of the screen. So for example, if I click, let's say that I would like to see what the data would look like with an area chart, I would click there. Datawrapper would automatically show me, update the visualization and show me the chart as an area chart. But the story that I wanted to highlight, that I was telling you that I wanted to highlight before, I'm kind of like losing it here, right? So I'll go back to the lines and I'll leave it there. That's a visualization I'll go with. Okay, so I'm gonna click on proceed. And when I do so, I go to the refine tab. You see the tabs right here at the top. And in the refine tab, I'm gonna be able to edit the different axes, change the colors of the lines, work with the tooltips as well. So the first one that I'm gonna get into is the horizontal axis. And I'll see that it's nicely formatted. So I'm gonna leave it as is. Now, when I move to the vertical axis, I see that the Internet Explorer line right here and the Google Chrome line, they're surpassing the 60% there. So I want to change that. So I want to say that I want the maximum value in my vertical axis to be 70. And I do that, and you'll see that automatically we see the 70 there. And I need to add the percentage sign because we're talking about market share. And I can do this by choosing from this drop-down menu, the format. We have here nicely rounded numbers, but you can also choose the different decimal points if you'd like. I'm gonna go with that one. Then the grid lines. The grid lines are the horizontal lines that you see, the thin gray horizontal lines. I usually hide them because I think it makes the chart look cleaner. And if I move to the bottom of the customization options, I'll see the customize lines. And we can use color in our favor here to really highlight the story. And again, remember the line chart that I was showing you before with the US and those selected few countries. I'm going to try to replicate that idea. And if I would like, let's say that I would like to change the color of all the lines, what I would do is I would click on base color, and then I would choose orange, and you'll see that Datawrapper is choosing different shades of that color that I selected to color the lines. But remember, in this case, I'm gonna have Google Chrome and Internet Explorer in color, and then Safari, Firefox, and Opera, I'm gonna leave them there in gray. Just to provide more context to a story. So let's change the color of Google Chrome. I'll click on Google Chrome, and I'm gonna choose a color of red. For Internet Explorer, I'll go with dark blue, and then I'm gonna select the rest of the browsers. I'll click on Firefox. I'll press Shift on my keyboard, and then I'll click on Opera and see that I'm doing a multi-selection. And now that I have them selected, I'm gonna click on the gray color. Great. And remember that another way of highlighting especially line charts are through the thickness of the line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the thickness of Google Chrome and Internet Explorer's line, and I'm gonna do the opposite with Firefox, Safari, and Opera. I'm gonna have them in thin in the background, and yeah. Now I could work on the labeling a little bit. I could see what my labels would look if I move them to the top, but it doesn't really make much sense. So I'm gonna keep them there in the right. I mean, it doesn't make sense because Firefox, Safari, and Opera, they all have the same style. So readers are not gonna be able to differentiate between those. So I'm gonna move it back to the right. And then you probably noticed that as I was hovering over the lines, we have these help text or tooltips, what are called. And this is because this line chart is interactive, so readers can access more information about the chart through these tooltips. But you see that we actually have monthly data that we're working with, and the tooltip has a day, so it's showing basically the year, the month, and the day. And we actually, because it's monthly data, we don't have days there, so we need to change the formatting of the tooltip, and I'll be able to do it through here, through the Show Tooltips panel. So I'm gonna click here, and I'll choose the format of the tooltip, which is gonna be this one, month and year. And now if I hover over again, I'll see that the tooltip is nicely formatted. I'm not going to touch the values for the vertical axis because they're nicely formatted, but yeah, it looks good now. So I think I'm ready to move forward the chart. So I'm going to click on proceed. When I click on proceed, I'm going to get to the annotate tab. And in the annotate tab, we can give more information about the line chart. You'll see that if someone looked at this line chart, they wouldn't know what the line chart is about, right? Because it's missing a title, a description, the data source, a byline, and so on. So we need to add that information, and we'll do this under this tab. So for the title, I'll go with the rise of Google Chrome, and the description, I have it ready here. I'm gonna copy and paste it. 2/3 of internet users browse the web with Chrome more than any other browser since Internet Explorer. We can add some notes. This is particularly useful if you have a data point that was, for example, collected in a different way. It's nice to clarify that right here on the notes. The data source, I have it here, so I'm gonna copy. That's stat counter global stats. So I'm gonna paste the link, and I'll say stat counter global stats. And as I input all this information, you'll see that Datawrapper is adding the title, the description, the data source is making that clickable as well. Then I'll move onto the byline. That's who created the chart. Me, Guillermina Sutter Schneider. There you go. And I want to show you 2 accessibility features that we have. We have an alternative description for screen readers. It's usually nice to add alt text for the charts and include a brief description of the chart. Now, if you happen not to have one, what Datawrapper is going to do is going to automatically generate a description using the type of chart that you're working with, the description, the title, and it's going to pull some also information from the footer. Then the other accessibility feature that we have is the colorblind check. So it's usually nice to check if the colors that you've chosen, they pass the colorblind check. If they don't, Datawrapper is going to flag that, and it's going to show a warning sign on top of the color blindness test that is not passing. But in this case, the colors that we've chosen, they pass all the tests, so we're good to go. Now, let's say that I want to add a little bit of more information on the chart. So let's say that I would like to point to the moment where or when Google Chrome reached the 50% of the browser's market share. So I can do that in different ways. One way would be to add what's called a highlight range. So basically, I could add a line, a horizontal line at the 50% mark, and also color the area under that line. So let's do that. So I'm gonna add the line, and I'm gonna click on highlight range. And if I click on the chart close to the 50% mark, then you'll see this pink line that I can drag and drop. I can eyeball it and just place it at the 50% mark, or alternatively, I can force Datawrapper to position that at the 50% mark. And we can further customize this line. We can increase, for example, the opacity. We can increase the width. We can change the style of the line. And yeah, this is a line that I'm happy with, so I'm going to leave it there. So now let's say that I want to color the area under that line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to again click on add range highlight. And instead of just clicking on the chart, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and you'll see that I'm coloring that area. And I'm going to force, again, Datawrapper to make it start at the 50% mark and end at 0%. So we're coloring, again, the area under that line. Now, it looks good. But now that we've added that line and that range, we need to tell the readers why we added it, right? And we can add a text annotation. So if I click on add text annotation and I click close to the intersection of the 50% line and Google Chrome's line, I can add some text saying Google Chrome reaches 50% of market share, period. I can add a text outline and customize the text further through this panel. I can make the arrow curvy, which I usually do. And I can move it. I can increase the size of the text box, but I'm going to leave it there. Cool. Now that I added that text annotation, I feel that there's a lot of text now on my chart. And one workaround would be to use the same text annotations to label directly the lines. So the way that would work would be I would create text annotations like this one that we just added to just label directly the different lines. And I would have to switch off the labeling there at the right. So let's do that. So the labeling, remember that we had those in the refine step, the previous step. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to say, I don't want any labels. Cool. So now I have to go to the annotate tab and add the text annotation. So I'm going to add the first text annotation right here. And I'm going to say this is Internet Explorer. There we go, Internet Explorer. And then I can make the text bold and I'm going to make it match the color of the line. I'm going to move it closer there to the line. And I'll do the same with Google Chrome. So I'm going to add a text annotation there. And this is going to say Google Chrome. I'm going to make it bold and I'm going to make it match the color of the line. And we should do the same with the rest of the line. So this one, that was Safari. And I'll do it in gray. in gray, but I'm going to add a text outline to increase the contrast with the gray rectangle. And we'll do the same with Firefox. We should keep doing it for all Firefox, for all the lines, but just because of time, I'm just gonna leave it there. But of course, this is the Opera line, so we should also be adding that label. Now, it looks great. I'm ready to publish it, but let's say that this chart is not gonna go in print. I'm gonna embed it on a website. It would be nice to check how my chart is going to look on a mobile screen. So if I go to here at the bottom of the chart, you see all these icons for the different screen sizes, and I'm gonna switch to mobile. And when I do that, you'll see that we have lots of what are called keys. So basically, Datawrapper, what it has done, it has turned all my text annotations into keys. But the good news is that we can work or further customize this mobile preview. So what I'm gonna do, the first thing that I'm gonna do, the Google Chrome reaches 50% of market share. That I'm gonna have, I'm not gonna show it on mobile, right? And Firefox and Safari, I'm also not gonna show it on mobile, so I'm gonna click on Firefox. I don't want to show it on mobile. And Safari, I do not want to show it on mobile, right? And then for Google Chrome and Internet Explorer, I want to show it on mobile. I want it to display there. So I'm going to say that I do not want to show it as key. So I'll see the label right there. And I'll do the same with Internet Explorer. I do not want to show it as key on mobile. I wanted to show it as text annotation there. So I'm going to switch to desktop view. And I'll switch back to mobile view, and you'll see that we have customized what the styling of the chart, or what we are showing on the chart on mobile screen, and looks different or more detailed on computer screen, desktop. Okay, so now that I've done all these edits, I'm ready to move to the next step. And in the next step, I was telling you before doing the intro that we can enable the automatic dark mode right here. We also have the option of adding social media share buttons, for example. So that's that's something that you'd like to do, you can do so here under the layout tab. I'm not going to do any of that. So I'm going to click on proceed. And this is when I get to the publish and embed step, the step that I said it was the most important one, because that's why we started creating the visualization. And up to this point, my visualization is private. That means that I'm the only one who has access to it. So it's not going to be until I click on publish now that I'll be able to get the visualization out of Datawrapper in two different ways. I can embed it or share it through this link to the visualization, or embed it on a website with this embedding code. We have different embedding codes, which I would say will ultimately depend on the CMS you're gonna embed the visualization into, but just I think it's worth mentioning. And also, as I was telling you before, you're going to be able to download the visualizations as PNGs under the free plan, and with the paid plans, PDFs and SVGs, the vector formats. And we just created a visualization, a line chart in Datawrapper in a very few steps, and very easy. How cool is that? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the visualization. This is what my chart looked like before. It's not a very happy line chart, but after we worked on it a little bit, I went ahead and did some other customization. So for example, you'll see that the Google Chrome line is matching. There are some workarounds when it comes to HTML tags that you can add on the description. So I did that, and I matched I made this Chrome in the description, Internet Explorer. I made them bold and match the color of the lines, and also moved the vertical axis to the right. So I did other customizations to the visualization. All right, so let's see. So that was the overview of the visualizations. Now we're going to move over to the outro, where I'm going to walk you through some other resources. As you might have probably seen, Datawrapper is not only an online data visualization tool. We have lots of resources from our blog, with articles on best practices or do's and don'ts on data visualization, and also our academy, where we also teach you, and we have articles on how to use Datawrapper and how to do this and that with Datawrapper. So let's see that. So first off, the plans, very, very simple. We have a free plan with which you're going to be able to create as many charts as you want, and also export them in PNG formats as part of the pay plans. You're going to get all the features from the free plan, plus you're going to be able to export them in PNG and SVGs. And on top of that, you're going to get the option of getting a design theme, so that everything that you create in Datawrapper is going to match the style of your organization. Now, we're going to move to the resources that we offer at Datawrapper. We offer all these resources, but do not worry. I'm going to go one by one and explain them to you. When you need help, we have the Academy with lots of tutorials, like I was telling you before, and we also have our support team, who's always more than happy to answer any of your questions. What's the Datawrapper Academy, you might be wondering? So that's a website with lots of how-to articles on each chart, map, and table, and also about the different features for each map, table, and chart. Like in this case, we teach you how to create text annotations, like with the line chart, or tooltips, which are great to work on when you're creating maps, especially. And whenever you need help, you can look out for the gray question marks that we have on the app, directly on the app, and the university hats. Let me go back so that you can see. Let's go back, so for example, to the visualize tab. So this is what I'm referring to. So if you ever happen to get stuck or don't know what an option does of these like customization options, you can hover over the interrogation marks. And I think the app does a really good job at explaining those features directly on the app. And one other thing that you can expect is that all these options that we went through when we were creating the line chart, they're going to look different if you are working or creating a scatterplot, if you're creating multiple lines, or if you're creating a map, right? So you can expect all these options to be different from each other, and also the steps to be somewhat different, not very different as these customization options, but a little bit different. Now, if the Academy or the little question marks in the app don't really help, you can always reach out to our support team at support@datawrapper.de. Probably any of these 4 beautiful individuals is going to get back to you with an answer to your question. Elana, Shaylee, Margot, and Mihi, they're great and really, really fast at answering the questions of our users. Now, when you're looking for inspiration, you'll find resources like the blog or the river. Our blog is full of articles covering a wide range of topics in data visualization, best practices, data wrangler, and more. You can also expect to find endless examples of elaborate charts and maps and tables that were created with Datawrapper. Every week, also someone from the Datawrapper team writes an article including Datawrapper charts, maps, and tables I think this is a great way of getting inspired by different ways and crazy ways of using Datawrapper, and also to how to push it to its limits, because it's released every Thursday and we have a newsletter for it. And it's one of my favorite parts, because we sometimes we come up with a crazy chart and that you would have never thought that could be made with Datawrapper, and they sometimes explain in the article how they built it, and I think it's fascinating. Now, the blog also offers how-to articles, for example, how to prepare your data before loading it into Datawrapper. We have a do's and don'ts section with a collection of articles covering topics to help you make better choices when creating data visualization. We also have the Database Dispatch. So that's a collection of the most beautiful big and small data visualizations from newsrooms and organizations and other organizations around the world. That's going out every Tuesday. And there's also one more special resource that I'm going to mention, the Datawrapper River. So the Datawrapper River, it's a great site to go to if you're looking for inspiration, or simply if you want to save some work. Because on the Datawrapper River, basically other people put their charts, maps, and tables for everyone else to reuse. So if you click on reuse here, do not panic. You're never going to change anyone's work. You're just going to be working off of a copy of that visualization that you'd like to reuse. Now, if you're curious about the latest developments at Datawrapper, we have also these resources to keep you updated about everything. We have all these newsletters that you can sign up to or register for. You can also find information on the latest Datawrapper features in the blog. If you want to check for small changes, we have the Datawrapper changelog. So basically every time a map is added to the list of administrative boundaries I was telling you before, or a very tiny change is mapped, it's going to appear on this list. And last but not least, if you want to automate your workflows, we have an API that's well documented also on our website that you can check at developer.datawrapper.de/docs. And we've had some users on their own create packages for R that you can also find on our website, and for Python as well. I do a public webinar on, it's a Datawrapper API 101 with RStudio. So if you're interested in that, I'm probably going to be given that one next month. So the both articles for how to use our API with R and Python are on our website. And here's my info. If you want to send me an email, if you have questions, that's my info. And you can also, again, feel free to reach out at support@datawrapper.de. And with that, I think if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Thanks.
Reminded everyone in here. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, that was really great. Really appreciate the talk. Do we want to do a call out for any questions online? I think you can add them directly to the chat. If there are any already, or we can start with one in the room. If anybody here has a question. Yeah.
Thanks, Guillermina, for the presentation. I thought that was great. Just a question on what happens to the data that get uploaded? Like, do you save it, or like they get stored somewhere, or like if we have confidential information, what happens to them?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, I know that's important. And just to get out of the way, we do take data privacy very, very seriously. Now, if you do not click on publish now, if you don't make your visualization public, then the data remains private. So if you're creating that chart, you're going to be the only one who or with access to that data. Now, if you click on publish now, then basically what if your visualization is interactive, I mean, people will, if they hover over the visualization, they are going to have access to the underlying data, right? There's the option of, for example, switching off. We have a get the data button where users can click on and download the data. You can switch that off. You can switch the tooltips. So whenever the user or the reader hovers over the visualization, they don't interact with it. But if people want to get the data, and if you're embedding your chart on a website, if they want to access the data, they are going to be able to access the data. So that's why we also offer the option of downloading the visualization, which some customers do. They download the visualization as a PNG or as an SVG, and that's what they use to put it on a website. But again, now I think we have, with AI, you just run your chart by softwares, and they return a proxy of that data. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Very good, thank you.
And also, I mean, Datawrapper is never going to share your data with anyone, right? But if again anyone wants to really grab the data, they're going to be able to do it if you're embedding again your visualization on a website.
And your I guess your cloud is based in Germany, like
yeah. So we have
data are stored in Germany.
Yeah, so it's stored in the EU, specifically we have 2 servers, one in Sweden, one in Germany.
I see. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the very interesting presentation. My question is about, you mentioned that there is a dark mode for this visualization. Is this by default activated, or how does this work?
So it's not turned on by default. You would have to do it. Let me show it to you. You would have to do that on the layout tab. Right here, you see that there's a toggle. It's automatically set to off by default, so you would have to turn it on, and then you will see you have the option here. You can switch between dark mode and light mode, excuse me, to see what the visualization looks like.
Oh,
but yeah,
great.
It's switched off by default.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering, is Datawrapper considering somehow data uncertainty or something? Like, for example, when I have a data set with a lot of missing data, and is it just like not plotting like anything, or is it somehow giving a hint like there is a lot of missing data? So yeah, I was wondering if it's like have a feature like this or so.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So let's see. So for example, for time series with missing data, for example, we have different ways or different options for interpolation. Now, for other types of uncertainty that don't fall under the like time series, right, data, I guess there's an article, I'm not remembering correctly probably, but I think there might be an article on our blog on uncertainty, I think. So that might be nice to check it. So I'm gonna actually make a note and see if I find it, I'll send it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I have another one? I'm just curious, and I'm not sure if this is a stupid question or not, but I used to work in a healthcare industry, and in healthcare, you cannot really get your data out of the country. So do you have a solution for it? Like for, I guess, for those type of data that should only stay within geographic, like the location.
As of today, I haven't really run into a case like the one you're describing, so I wouldn't be sure how to answer that question. When you say, would you explain it a little bit further? When you say, when you gave the example of, for example, like people not being able to, you said,
for example, I used to work in healthcare, like I mentioned, I wanted to say do a visualization on some anonymized patient data, but even anonymized patient data cannot leave Australia, for example, where I used to live. So it has to stay in Australia, but your server is in Germany. Then I'm just wondering if I could use your product or not, you know?
Okay, I got it now. Yeah. So one of the paid features, one of the paid plans, the enterprise plan allows you to self-host the visualization. So basically everything that you're gonna do with Datawrapper is gonna live on your servers, for example, in this case. So that might be probably that could probably be like a workaround.
Okay, very good.
So, but again, there's two different like pay plans, the custom, and then the enterprise plan is kind of like geared towards bigger organizations, and that's under that plan only we offer the self-hosting option.
I see. Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. If okay, there are two questions from online I would love to ask Guillermina. And the first one is, are there plans to expand the data visualization formats available? And the person provides some additional context. In my current position, we speak a lot about humanizing data and how certain visualization types help facilitate this more than others. So I guess the question is, all the chart types that you currently have, is that a list in progress?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. We get this question a lot. So we've recently added, I think it was exactly a month ago, we added the multiple lines. So basically, if you are working with, like, for example, this chart that we're seeing on the screen right now, let's say that you wanna show it as multiple lines. So those are mini line charts that show in different panels. Now that's a chart type that we've recently added. We have a few more there that we're working on that we of course cannot give information on, but yes, we're considering other chart types. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And if I may, there's another one also from online, from Kerstin. First, thanks for the presentation. And then she asks, do you give the option to re-edit already published charts?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kerstin. Yeah, so basically, once you published your chart, what you can do is if you see here at the top right, we have like the archive option. If you click there, you're going to be able to access all the visualizations that you created, both published or that haven't been published yet. Whenever you click on any visualization, you'll see the option if you created it, or you have the permissions to edit that visualization, you'll be able to edit it. Now, the new change or the new edit is not going to show. It's not going to show, but if you click, of course, on republish, it will, those changes will apply to the published visualization. They're not going to automatically publish those changes. You're going to have to manually do that yourself.
Can I follow up on that? But let's say somebody has already embedded that visualization using the embed code, and then I change the underlying data or any of the annotations. That would then automatically also be visible on somebody, like in a place where the visualization has previously been embedded, or is there some type of versioning or timestamp when it was like last updated?
So we have the edit history here, and you'll see that it tracks changes that's been made to the visualization. You'll see that because this is a published version that you'll see with the button there, the green button. Now, because I made the change because of one of the questions for the dark mode option, I switched that on. So now this is a current version that I'm seeing, but hasn't been published yet. So the changes haven't been automatically applied, right? So I'm gonna have to go to publish and click on republish right here. And then I will be working. Well, I don't know why it's showing the current version, but this is the most up-to-date version of my visualization that has been published with the toggle for dark mode that I switched on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool.
Any other questions in the room for Benji?
No, I would have one more question. I'm curious to know when you switch from uploading a data set or copying pasting a data set to the after the check and describe step to the visualize step, I observed that it already pre-selects a visualization type. It pre-selected the line chart. Could you speak a little bit about if that's a conscious decision, if that's a default, or if that's based on what Datawrapper sees is in the data and like what type of columns there are in the data, or how is there some anticipation what they believe, they being Datawrapper, what you believe is the right chart for the data that has been uploaded or selected?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a very interesting question. So it's set to line chart by default. So I mean, Datawrapper doesn't really make a decision on what chart type it uses. It always defaults to line chart when you move from the second to the third step, the visualize step. Now, why is it set to line chart by default? I personally do not know. So, but I know it's by default, it shows you a line chart.
All right, cool. Thank you. Back to you, Lloyd.
Any more questions in the room? No? All right. I think that's it. Maybe we can give her one more round of applause for.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. For people here, like you're welcome to grab a drink and hang out for bits. I will shoot people out in like half an hour-ish. I guess anyone online, if you have follow-up questions or anything, maybe Julie, you want to throw your contact up there? Yeah, perfect. I guess feel free to wrap out. Feel free to wrap up to reach out to us as well. Hope you guys sign up for the next one, and we'll see you in April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great night. Hope to see you one time in person. Hopefully I can make it to Zurich.